Thank you for joining us today. We will be touching on some of my favorite tools, shortcuts, agents, and variables. With no further ado, let's get right to it. Use the X in parentheses to display variables. And use the plus sign to create them. With the scope, we can choose if the variable should be workflow, user, or a bot variable. Next, we can determine the expected type the value should be. We can also include a description and a default value. Use the small gear to access many different bot settings. Here we can select and delete the bot, press created name when the bot was created, and give it a meaningful one that will be easily identified in the list of bots. Once the new name is entered, press enter. I usually open it again immediately to verify the changes took. There is a button in the stream above flows that is not visible. This button has a menu that allows the user to access templates, but also the import and export of bots. One question I see a lot is about how to use the language agent to make the bot multilingual. This is very easy to accomplish and is already nearly configured when created, minus being turned off by default. Another important detail is the exposed variable user.translatorAgent.language. When the set user language is set, the value is stored in this variable. Let's create a quick flow that starts in English, asks the language of the user, and then says, "Hi in your language," translated into the language they provided. First, we need to add a set user language card, and for language input English. Then we need to create a new node. The text card that will be added will display the "hello from your language" in whichever language the user has defined. Instead of taking the flow to end, I made a never-ending loop in order to make testing the bot more efficient. This can be done, but it is by no means required. At this point, we still need to acquire the language of the user. So we will use a text card to ask the user the question. The next card will be, wait for user input card, which will not manipulate the input in any way, only store it in event.preview. Now we use an execute code to store the value stored in event.preview to be stored in another variable. Let's create a variable to store the language input by the user. Let's move back to the second node again. We will add a set user language card above the text box. For the language, we will call the variable workflow.lang. With these steps in place, we are ready for some testing. Our bot now seems to function as intended. While this is a very simple process, it is very cool to have something similar to this in the intro workflow of your bots, as it will do all the translation for you to and from your natural language or the user's. Happy bot building.